Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the current president, has declared his triumph in Turkey. After Turkey's runoff election, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has declared a win, solidifying his authoritarian hold on the country for a third decade. According to unofficial results from competing news agencies, with almost 99% of ballot boxes opened, Erdogan managed to secure 52% of the vote, while his opponent, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, obtained 48%. After the polls closed, Erdogan made his first statement and addressed his supporters from a campaign bus parked outside his residence in Istanbul. Expressing gratitude, he acknowledged every citizen of the nation for their trust in re-electing him to govern the country for the next 5 years. As his supporters jeered, he mocked his opponent for their defeat with the taunting phrase, "Bye, bye, bye, Kemal." According to Erdogan, Turkey is the sole beneficiary of the outcome today. Prior to the announcement of the final results, Erdogan's supporters in Istanbul were already showing their enthusiasm by waving Turkish or ruling party flags and honking car horns. The effects of the outcome could have far-reaching consequences, extending beyond the boundaries of Ankara. As a country situated at the intersection of two continents, Europe and Asia, Turkey holds a pivotal position in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Sweden's attempt to join NATO was vetoed by Erdogan's government, and in addition, they acquired Russian missile defense systems. This led to being removed from a US-led fighter jet project by the United States. Despite this, Turkey played a significant role in facilitating an essential agreement that prevented a worldwide food crisis and allowed for the transportation of Ukrainian grain shipments. News agencies in competition with each other rely on information from ballot box counts, which are collected by personnel on the ground. The agencies have their strengths in different regions, which accounts for some of the differences in the preliminary data. Turkey's electoral board provides its own data to political parties as the vote count progresses, but waits several days before officially declaring the results. Having been in charge of Turkey for 2 decades, Erdogan was the front-runner to secure another term lasting 5 years in the runoff election, having narrowly missed out on a clear win in the initial round held on May 14th. Despite rampant inflation and the aftermath of a catastrophic earthquake, the polarizing populist managed to secure a 4% lead over Kılıçdaroğlu, the contender representing a coalition of 6 political parties. This marks a significant departure from Erdogan's previous election victories, as it is the first time he has not emerged as the winner while running as a candidate. The country's recent past and its future were perceived in completely contrasting ways by the two candidates. Amidst challenging circumstances and a barrage of slander and defamation, the 74-year-old Kılıçdaroğlu expressed his trust in the people's common sense as he cast his ballot. He remains optimistic that democracy and freedom will eventually prevail, allowing individuals to roam the streets and openly voice their criticisms of politicians without fear of retribution. Following his completion of the voting process at a school in Istanbul, Erdogan spoke with journalists about the significance of the presidential runoff election in Turkey. He commended the large number of voters who participated in the first round of elections and expressed his anticipation for a similarly high turnout in the current round. Meanwhile, on local television, Erdogan and Kılıçdaroğlu were seen casting their ballots simultaneously in a split-screen display. He expressed his hope that the election would bring benefits to the country and its people, saying a prayer to God for this outcome. The unorthodox economic policies of Erdogan have faced criticism from experts who link them to the current state of inflation in Turkey. This inflation has led to a significant increase in the cost of living, which has had devastating effects on the population. Additionally, many have criticized Erdogan's administration for its lackluster response to the earthquake that resulted in the deaths of over 50,000 individuals in Turkey. Mustafa Yesil, a 60-year-old retiree residing in Diyarbakir, a province mostly inhabited by Kurds and one of the 11 regions affected by the February 6th earthquake, revealed that he voted for change. Expressing dissatisfaction with the current state of the country, he made it clear that the future looks bleak if the current administration persists. According to him, the administration's policies will have disastrous consequences and changes must be made. An Erdogan supporter named Mehmet Yurtas held a differing opinion. As per the 57-year-old proprietor, our nation is currently in an excellent state and at its pinnacle. He believes that the course our country is on is very promising and will continue to be so. Despite Turkey being founded on secular principles, Erdogan's efforts to increase Islam's presence in the country and raise its global political relevance have garnered him the unwavering support of conservative voters. Possessed of a deep devotion to the Muslim faith, the 69-year-old Erdogan is the leader of Turkey's conservative Religious Justice and Development Party, also known as the AKP. Through the virtue of a narrowly won 2017 referendum that abolished Turkey's parliamentary system of governance, Erdogan was able to transform the presidency from a primarily ceremonial role into a potent office. Having been the first directly elected president in 2014, he went on to win the 2018 election that solidified the executive presidency, and as a result, Erdogan could conceivably hold the reins of power until the year 2028. During the initial portion of Erdogan's term, he implemented a series of reforms that enabled Turkey to initiate discussions for potential membership in the European Union. Additionally, there was notable economic growth that resulted in the alleviation of poverty for many citizens. However, Erdogan eventually shifted his focus towards limiting freedoms and media suppression, as well as increasing his own authority. This trend was particularly evident following a failed attempt at a coup, which Turkey claims was orchestrated by Fethullah Gulen, an Islamic cleric based in the United States. Despite these accusations, Gulen has denied any involvement. The pro-secular Republican People's Party, CHP, has been led by a mild-mannered former civil servant who goes by the name of Kılıçdaroğlu since 2010. Kılıçdaroğlu's platform is centered on reversing Erdogan's regression in democratic values, implementing more traditional policies to revitalize the economy, and forming stronger relations with Western nations. Erdogan's opposition is embodied by Kılıçdaroğlu in the upcoming election. Kılıçdaroğlu made a desperate attempt to appeal to nationalist voters during the runoff, promising to repatriate refugees and refusing to engage in peace talks with Kurdish militants if he is elected. If Kılıçdaroğlu were to lose the election, it would contribute to Erdogan's already lengthy record of electoral victories and could potentially lead to calls for Kılıçdaroğlu to resign as party chairman. After the legislative election held on May 14th, Erdogan's AKP party and its allies were able to maintain their majority of seats in parliament. Sunday's commemoration also signified the 10-year anniversary of widespread anti-government demonstrations that initially erupted due to plans to remove trees from Gezi Park in Istanbul, ultimately presenting one of the most significant obstacles to Erdogan's administration. The conviction of 8 individuals for their suspected involvement in the protests was just the beginning of Erdogan's crackdown on civil society and freedom of expression, a move that signaled his intolerance towards dissent. After the May 14th election, global monitors highlighted the criminalization of false news dissemination and digital suppression as proof that Erdogan had an unfair edge. Furthermore, they remarked that the high voter turnout exhibited the robustness of Turkish democracy. The pro-government media, along with Erdogan, depicted Kılıçdaroğlu, who got support from the pro-Kurdish party, as someone who colluded with terrorists and supported deviant LGBTQ rights. At his recent campaign rallies, Erdogan repeatedly accused Kılıçdaroğlu of taking orders from Kandil, the stronghold of the PKK in Iraq's mountains, where the group's leadership is based. As the Ottoman Empire crumbled, the country established itself as a republic, and a century later, during its 100th anniversary, an election was held to commemorate the occasion. To support our channel's growth and ensure broader awareness, kindly hit the like and subscribe buttons. This will help us reach more individuals and disseminate valuable information. Thank you in advance.